a mother's intuition.
Something in the pit of my stomach just was like, something's not right. He was laying on the floor right in the hallway. He was cold. There was a pool of blood at his head.
They realized that he had had a gunshot wound to the head.
An investigation led by the victim himself.
Jeremy's phone was set up to mirror his iPad.
And they went in and started trying the passwords.
What was revealed was something that no one saw coming.
It was shocking.
Like, that's my big question still to this day. Why? Why did he die?
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Baldwin, Pennsylvania, a small community nestled in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. When police got a call about a man found dead inside his home, they never could have imagined the dark secret that would be uncovered. It was Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. For Tina and Jack Dentel, there was no better way to celebrate than to go out to dinner with their 28-year-old son, Jeremy.
We had a nice dinner, and he was getting ready to go on a cruise in March. And he was telling us all about the cruise and everything. And then we went, dropped him back off at the house. I kissed him goodbye, said, "I love you."
They then watched as Jeremy went into his house, not knowing that their lives would never be the same. The next day went by without hearing from him, but no one thought anything of it.
We didn't talk every day, but, we talked often. And then Sunday came along and the Penguin game was happening, and he loved the Penguins, and him and Jack would often text back and forth.
He texted me in the middle of the game, "Did you believe they made that call?" and stuff like that.
The game ended without Jeremy's usual messages, which seemed odd. Both Tina and Jack reached out, but neither got a response.
As the day went on, he wasn't answering us back. When we texted him, I called him a few times, and, I was worried.
Jack tried to calm Tina's nerves by reminding her that Jeremy was a 28-year-old who had his own life and probably was just busy with friends. But nothing he said made her feel better.
Like, something in the pit of my stomach just was like, something's not right. They talk about mother's intuition. It was definitely that day.
She just couldn't shake the ominous feeling she had. What did you say to Jack?
And I said, "I'm going over just to make sure he's fine." I said, "It's not like him to not call us, or at least call me back and tell me, everything's fine." And I ended up, we drove over. And
Jeremy only lived a mile away, and Jack agreed to go with her. When they pulled up to his home, they saw that the lights were on.
I knew something was wrong as soon as we crested the hill, because, and it sounds silly, but his hall light was on, and the hall light was never on.
I looked in the garage and it's like, "His car's here."
But Jeremy didn't answer when they knocked on the door. Tina used her key and went inside, and that's when she saw him.
He was laying on the floor right in the hallway, and if you looked at the wall, you could see there was some blood on the wall. I just figured he tripped and hit his head.
He must have had a heart attack, or an aneurysm or something.
It was a parent's worst nightmare. Jeremy wasn't moving, and they could tell he was already gone.
Once I got close to him and I leaned on, he was cold. There was a pool of blood that was dry at his head.
Jack called 911. An emergency crews arrived at Jeremy's home. As paramedics examined him, they made a grim discovery.
They realized that he had had a gunshot wound to the head.
They kept saying to us, "There's a hole in the wall." And then when we said no, that hole wasn't there, then they started asking about it.
Tina Dentel could never imagine her son taking his own life.
Suicide would have been the furthest thing from my mind. Well, besides murder. I would have never thought that either, but suicide didn't fit in with the child that I knew. He was going on a cruise with like 10 of his friends, and he was so excited talking to us all about the excursions that they had just booked. He was happy, he wasn't depressed.
There was only one sure way to find out, and that came when the medical examiner arrived to remove Jeremy's body. As they lifted him up, they could see that there was no gun underneath him or anywhere in sight. Jeremy couldn't have killed himself. Someone had murdered him.
They did a cursory look and couldn't find his cell phone either, which was unusual. He was a younger guy who was always on his cell phone. But the initial detective that arrived realized that Jeremy's phone was set up to mirror onto his iPad, so that detective collected the iPad.
While detectives began their investigation into the murder of Jeremy Dentel, his heartbroken family couldn't understand why anyone would want to hurt him.
He was a very loving, caring, always was smiling. He had so many friends and co-workers that loved him. I mean, he was just a wonderful person.
He was also extremely intelligent. He taught himself how to program computers at the age of 12 and was recruited by a top software company his sophomore year of college. He bought his house that same year.
Never concerned about the neighborhood. It was very quiet, very safe place to live. I know that his neighbors, we joked that he was a college kid moving in, and they were worried about all the big parties and stuff that he would have, but that wasn't him.
Jeremy would rather spend his free time giving back to the community.
He volunteered one day a week at the local high school to help the computer teacher teach computer programming.
Everyone described Jeremy as kind and generous, and that's why his murder was so baffling.
I've known one person to say, yeah, they might do something like this.
Detectives got to work collecting evidence inside Jeremy's home. There was a bullet hole in the wall, and stuck inside was a casing from a 9mm gun that was stamped Luger FC.
So once the casing was collected, it was submitted to the crime lab, and the striations and all the strike marks and whatnot were recorded.
Although there wasn't much else discovered, investigators noticed that Jeremy's cell phone was missing.
They did a cursory look and couldn't find his cell phone either, which was unusual. He was a younger guy who was always on his cell phone. So those things started to raise the alarm.
Detectives believed that it was possible the killer had been communicating with Jeremy that day and had taken the phone to cover up his or her identity. But what that person didn't know was that Jeremy was a computer genius and always backed up his information.
I wasn't the initial detective that got there, but the initial detective that arrived realized that Jeremy's phone was set up to mirror onto his iPad. Now the iPad was there, so that detective collected the iPad.
Jeremy also knew the importance of making sure that someone he trusted had access to his information. So when Jeremy handed you a list of his passwords, what did he tell you?
It was more just for convenience. So here's my stuff. I don't care. You're my parents. I don't care if you get me my stuff. So I told the detective, I pulled out my phone. Here's a list of passwords. I don't know if any of them are valid. I've had these a while.
Jeremy's smart thinking was about to put detectives on the trail of his killer. And how long had Jeremy and the unknown person been communicating?
Only for a few days, but we're setting up to meet for the first time on that Saturday. You see Jeremy open the door from the inside, you see the light come on, and less than a minute later, this stocky individual came right back out of the house.
With Jeremy's password information given to police by his parents, Detectives were able to get into his iPad and take a look at what he was up to from the time he was dropped off on Friday night to the time his parents discovered him on Sunday night.
And what I saw was that the last outgoing activity on Jeremy's iMessages was on Saturday afternoon. So for a younger guy who's communicating a lot, that was a good starting point to say, okay, has anyone seen or heard from him since then? And we weren't able to determine anybody.
Investigators then started reading through his text messages and noticed that Jeremy had been in a conversation with someone who wasn't saved in his contacts. And how long had Jeremy and the unknown person been communicating?
Only for a few days. And it was clear from the messages that I read that morning that they had never met in person, but were setting up to meet for the first time on that Saturday.
Jeremy's new friend told him that he would be there around 6 p.m. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood and saw that the person who lived a couple of doors down from Jeremy had surveillance cameras. They got the video and began watching to see if anyone had showed up at Jeremy's home. At 6:09 p.m., a car came slowly down the street and a man got out of the back seat and headed towards the door.
You see Jeremy open the door from the inside, you see the light come on, and less than a minute later, this stocky individual came right back out of the house, and you can see he has a cell phone in his hand, the telltale glow in the camera.
The man then got back into the car, which had been waiting for him, and left. The timing coincided with the text messages from the unknown phone number.
He was messaging that he was in an Uber and he was on his way there and whatnot, and it all lined up. And then of course we sat and watched it to make sure no one else came or went from then, and there was nothing until the Dentels came on Sunday night to check on him.
Investigators were sure they had caught the killer on camera, but they still didn't know who he was or why he had murdered Jeremy. They searched the phone number in their police database, and it came back to a woman named Kimberly Rosenberg.
The Rosenbergs actually had 3 sons, and that they were all kind of in the same age demographic of the victim.
After looking at the surveillance video and the driver's license pictures of all 3 sons, investigators were certain Jeremy Dentel's killer was 21-year-old Adam Rosenberg, but they needed more evidence in order to arrest him.
I had drafted a search warrant to look for certain items, and that would have been Jeremy's missing cell phone, any ammunition that matched the ammunition that we had at the scene, and the caliber of gun that we believed had been used to kill Jeremy. Anything that indicated that tied the Rosenberg to the case.
Investigators went to the Rosenberg home where they spoke with Adam before serving the search warrant.
We told him it was about Jeremy and that, he was a friend of his and we weren't sure if he knew what happened, but we wanted to talk to him about his last conversations with him. And he indicated, yes, he did know Jeremy, so that at that point we knew we had the right Rosenberg.
Adam agreed to go with detectives to the station for an interview while the home was being searched.
He gave a brief statement, and then he asked for a lawyer, so we stopped the interview and we advised the district attorney of what we had and asked if he thought that was enough to arrest him, and he said yes.
Rosenberg was arrested and taken to jail. The evidence kept piling up. Although detectives didn't find Jeremy's cell phone or the gun inside the Rosenbergs' home, they did discover something else.
They had found ammunition matching ours.
The casings were also labeled Luger FC. As investigators then went through Adam Rosenberg's phone, they came across a bizarre video.
The video was captured less than an hour after Jeremy would have been killed. And the geolocation data indicated that it was in a grassy area right outside the Rosenbergs' home. And the video that we found in that review was a hand making a shallow burial place for a gun, and it was a bright, like robin's egg blue gun. And then the hand is seen like putting dirt over it, and then the recording stops.
Investigators got a search warrant for the location in the video and found the murder weapon. Police now knew who killed Jeremy Dentel, but they still didn't know why.
It was like an execution. This wasn't any kind of drug deal gone wrong. We had eliminated that. It was just someone who came, walked inside a house, was let in, in a friendly manner, and walked out. And it was concerning because there didn't appear to be any personal motives.
Detective McKeel wondered what she was missing and what other secrets Rosenberg was hiding as she continued to look through his phone. What she discovered was something no one could have expected.
I saw that right around Christmas, a gentleman named Alan had reached out to Adam and asked him some things about a mutual friend named Chris. And there were things about a gun. There were things about when's the last time you saw him.
The detective called Alan, who told her that his friend, Christian Moore-Rouse, had been missing for months. And the last time anyone spoke with him, he was in an Uber headed to Adam's home. The family had filed a missing persons report, but no one knew Adam's last name or where he lived.
All the family just knew he had a friend named Adam and suggested that we talk to him. And I said, well, I think this is him.
Detective McKeel was convinced that Rosenberg had murdered Christian as well. And since he liked to bury things on his family's property, she believed the body might be there.
We ended up getting a search warrant and then consent to search all of the other adjacent properties around the Rosenberg home, and right away his body was found in the woods that were across the street.
What was your reaction when Christian's body was discovered?
It was shocking. We were out there working one investigation while another victim is in such an unlikely place, but just literally right under our noses. It was a lot. And, Christian's mother had known that we would be out there searching, so she was nearby. It was a lot to explain to her that, what this sad outcome was for her son.
Why did this boy decide my son needed to die? I'll never have that answer.
What did you want him to hear?
He was a friend in addition to my son. And he took away an uncle, a brother, friends to so many people. It just wasn't right.
As part of the plea deal, Adam Rosenberg was given 2 life sentences without parole that will serve concurrently. He will also receive treatment for his mental illness while behind bars. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Catfishing on the internet is a growing problem where individuals create a partially or totally fake identity to deceive or scam others, often leading to severe consequences or even violence. Refrain from sharing sensitive personal details such as your home address or financial data with individuals you meet online. If you decide to meet someone in person, select a well-populated public venue. Avoid inviting them to your home during initial meetings. Before an in-person meeting, consider arranging a video call. This can help verify the person's identity and assess your comfort level with them. If something about the person or their statements feels off, trust your intuition. And you can always find more online safety tips at rain.org. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.